The first episode begins with Suin standing on the balcony outside her quarters, where Lean informs her that it's time. From a distance, Moiraine and Lan watch over the White Tower. Inside, Lindgren learns that Suin has summoned her, though only the sitters of each Aja are permitted to attend. Despite the accusations against her, Lindgren's Red Aja allies vow to support her. Ivan and Maxim attempt to accompany Alanna for her protection, but they are denied entry. Meanwhile, Varen, Adelias, and Tomas track down sacred artifacts that Suin has tasked them with protecting, including a metal cuff that closely resembles the Shanchan Adam used to control Domain. Elsewhere, Lindgren accuses Suin of being a traitor, revealing to the sitters that Suin secretly met with Moiraine, despite Moiraine's exile. Lindgren also discloses that Suin encountered a male channeler Rand al'Thor, the dragon reborn, and allowed him to escape. As the room fills with gasps, Suin denies the allegations but swiftly shifts the focus back to Lindgren, exposing her as a dark friend and a member of the Black Aja. To support her claim, Suin brings in Nynaeve, who testifies that Lindgren sold her to the Shanchan. Lindgren does not deny the accusations. Instead, she channels, lifting herself into the air. In response, Suin ensnares her with fiery golden weaves, condemning her for daring to attack her fellow Aes Sedai. She demands that Lindgren reveal the names of every Black Aja member before being sentenced to death. However, instead of surrendering, Lindgren calls upon her Black Aja sisters, and to everyone's shock, several sitters from different Ajas rise in her defense. As Alanna and Lean move to protect Suin, the Black Aja unleash powerful blasts of magic, igniting a brutal battle inside the tower. Horrified by the violence, Nynaeve attempts to channel but fails. In the chaos, a Black Aja member strikes one of the pillars, causing it to collapse onto Nynaeve. Another hurls a massive piece of debris at Suin, knocking her to the ground, which frees Lindgren from her bindings. Outside the chamber doors, Maxim and Ivan attempt to break through to protect Alanna, but they are confronted by Tarna and Galena, members of the Red Aja. Before they can react, several Black Aja members attack them, revealing just how deeply the shadow has infiltrated the tower. Even Varen's group is not spared from betrayal. Nynaeve, who had been working with Varen and Adelias, reveals herself as Black Aja. She steals the sacred artifacts they were protecting and uses her channeling to wipe Adelias' memory. Though Varen remains conscious, Adelias is left utterly lost, staring blankly and asking, "Who are you?" Inside the chamber, Lindgren urges her Black Aja sisters to link with her, combining their strength to unleash a devastating energy pulse. The sheer force of their attacks sends Alanna and Lean reeling, forcing them to shield Suin. Using the distraction, Lindgren and the Black Aja escape. Though gravely injured, Suin orders her Aes Sedai to track them down. From their vantage point outside, Moiraine and Lan watch in horror as a massive explosion of power erupts from the White Tower. Meanwhile, Varen cradles Adelias, who remains dazed from Nynaeve's attack. Though Varen's memories are intact, Adelias barely remembers who she is. Elsewhere, Alanna, Maxim, and Ivan track down Lindgren, Nynaeve, and the fleeing Black Aja members. Before they engage, Nynaeve informs Lindgren that she has successfully retrieved the artifacts, and the plan is to secure her ship and leave the city immediately. Suin scours the streets of Tar Valon, searching for any Black Aja members still hiding. She encounters Joet and Amiko, who kill the Aes Sedai tracking them and capture the Amerlin seat. Meanwhile, Alanna, Maxim, and Ivan confront Lindgren, engaging in a bloody skirmish. At one point, Maxim and Ivan manage to stab Lindgren through the heart, seemingly delivering a fatal blow. However, Lindgren is quickly healed by a former member of the Yellow Aja, allowing her to fight back. The Black Aja retaliate, hurling Alanna into 2 stone columns. With no other choice, Alanna orders her allies to retreat. Before she leaves, Lindgren manipulates a bloodied sword with her mind, sending it flying toward Alanna. At the last moment, Maxim shields her, but Ivan is impaled. As he collapses, Maxim realizes that he can no longer feel his bond with Ivan. Alanna, overcome with grief and rage, screams as she holds Ivan's lifeless body. Meanwhile, Joya and Emiko use their channeling to collapse a bell tower, sending massive debris crashing down toward Suin. Just as she is about to be crushed, Moiraine arrives and stops the rubble, saving Suin's life. Their eyes meet in a charged moment of emotion, but before either can speak, Moiraine turns and leaves. Inside the ruins of the White Tower, Lan finds Nynaeve unconscious beneath the wreckage. He cradles her gently as she slowly begins to wake. Later, Nynaeve reunites with Egwene, Rand, Perrin, and Mat. Rand reveals that Moiraine has ordered him to travel to Tyr, where one of the most powerful Sangreal in existence lies Calendar, the sword that is not a sword. The artifact is located in a fortress known as the Stone of Tyr, but its true purpose, whether it can defeat the Forsaken or even the Dark One himself, remains uncertain. Elaine informs the group that Moiraine wishes to speak with them. They gather alongside Loial, Aviendha, Kayad, and Bane, where Moiraine reveals that they will all set sail for Tyr at dawn. With rumors of the Dragon Reborn's appearance in Fam spreading and the Black Aja openly attacking the White Tower, staying in Tar Valon is no longer safe. After this, Mat convinces Perrin and Rand to spend one last night drinking. However, Aviendha and the other Maidens of the Spear secretly watch Rand, determined to escort him to the ale waste. Aviendha remains unconvinced that Rand is the true Kare Karn, Chief of Chiefs, noting that he has yet to undergo the trial of Viridian. Meanwhile, Egwene, Nynaeve, and Elaine share a girls' night, during which Egwene admits that while she and Rand feel connected, she sometimes sees Rena when he touches her, revealing that her trauma at the hands of the Shanchan still lingers. Elsewhere, a mysterious figure sketches Mat holding the Horn of Valir, while Perrin and Rand watch as Mat continues to boast about blowing the legendary horn. The three friends talk about women, and Mat teases Rand, but Rand keeps the truth about his past encounters with Lanfear a secret. With the White Tower under siege and the world in chaos, their journey is only just beginning. The lads chat about women, with Mat setting his sights on the Ale trio. Meanwhile, Rand discloses that he slept with someone besides Egwene, though he conveniently leaves out the part where she was a Forsaken. Viren warns Moiraine and Lan that the Black Aja has stolen the tower's most powerful weapons. She also advises Moiraine to keep Rand away from the Icy Dye while keeping a watchful eye on him, as the madness from the One Power could take hold at any moment. Shortly after, Moiraine and Lan run into Lanfear, who is as sleek and stylish as ever. She insists that Rand must go to Tyr and use Calendar to protect himself from the other Forsaken. Interestingly, Moiraine and Lanfear agree on this point. However, Lanfear believes that Rand's friends are holding him back, preventing him from becoming the man he is meant to be. She also suggests that Moiraine would do what is necessary to remove them. After Lanfear vanishes, Lan warns Moiraine not to trust her, and she agrees. She urges Lan to retrieve his Valkyrie blade from the tower, adding that if she's wrong about Lanfear, they will kill her. Meanwhile, Egwene and Nynaeve tease Elaine about Aviendha, noting that besides Perrin, Elaine is the only person Aviendha is nice to. For now, Elaine allows herself to relax, but with Suin's arrival, she knows that tomorrow it's back to novice duties. Elaine steps out, giving Suin a chance to speak privately with Egwene and Nynaeve. She urges them to exercise caution with Rand, warning that he could turn on them. At first, Egwene refuses to return to novice training, but she strikes a deal with Suin if the Amerlin seat allows her to go through the arches and become accepted, she will return to the tower. As the conversation unfolds, Moiraine eavesdrops from a distance. Later, Egwene steps through the arches to undergo her test. Meanwhile, Lan reunites with Nynaeve, who reassures him that Egwene will be fine. Nynaeve also opens up about what she saw in her own arches trial, the vision of their child, the happiness they shared as a family. Elsewhere, Elaine and Aviendha share a moment of flirtation. Elaine reassures Aviendha that Rand will come to terms with his responsibilities as the Kare Karn. At the same time, Loial and Rand study the prophecies together. When Elaine enters, she offers wisdom about wielding power, reminding Rand of the responsibilities that come with it. Inside the arches, Egwene experiences an alternate reality, where she is the Amerlin seat. As she rides through breathtaking terrain with Nynaeve and Elaine, they stumble upon Rand, who has succumbed to madness. He stands in a river, looking utterly deranged, demanding that they bow before him. Egwene warns Nynaeve and Elaine to steel themselves before stepping forward. She eventually emerges from the arches covered in blood. Meanwhile, Rand and Moiraine discuss their next steps. Rand questions whether traveling to Tyr and claiming Calendar is a trap. Perhaps this is what the Forsaken want him to do. He admits that he would rather return home to the Two Rivers, but Moiraine reminds him that he needs a real army, not a militia of farmers. Rand, however, asserts that Moiraine no longer has control over his decisions. Shortly after, Suin places the Great Serpent ring on Egwene's finger, officially naming her accepted. As Egwene departs, she tells Suin that her duty is to the light, not the tower. Now that she has earned her ring, she is free to come and go as she pleases. That evening, Lan shows Nynaeve his father's Valkyrie sword, expressing his concerns that the Forsaken won't just come for Rand, they will come for everyone. Meanwhile, Mat and Loial enjoy some drinks, only for Bane and Kayad to challenge Mat to an ale game called Maiden's Kiss. Holding spears to his throat, they explain that if his kissing is satisfactory, they will lower their weapons, but if he fails, they will draw blood, or worse. Unsurprisingly, Mat is all in, because he loves kissing. Not far away, Elaine and Avienda play their own version of a kissing game this time, without blades. After a lingering moment of tension, they finally share a kiss. Later, Egwene tends to Rand's wounds, and he asks about her experience in the Arches. Egwene confesses that it was terrible, admitting that a version of Rand was there, but she is not afraid of him. She vows to stay by his side until the end, and as things become intimate, she relives a haunting memory of Rhenna grabbing her throat. Despite this, she tells Rand she wants to try. That night, a cloaked stranger appears behind Moiraine. Elsewhere, Nynaeve and Mat stay up after the others go to bed, and Mat spreads out his cards, asking if she wants to play. Nynaeve reminds him that she is still his wisdom and can help him. Mat confesses that since blowing the horn of Valir, something has changed in him. He suffers from insomnia, hears voices in his head, and even experiences memories that aren't his own. As Egwene sleeps, she has a nightmare about Rhenna and the twisted version of Rand from the Arches. Meanwhile, Mat becomes entranced by his cards, watching as the figures shift and move. Suddenly, the cloaked stranger attacks, stabbing Nynaeve repeatedly. Egwene wakes up to find an alternate version of Rand strangling her. The real Rand awakens and tackles the doppelganger as more versions of himself emerge from the mirrors. At the same time, an axe floats around the room where Perrin and Loial sleep. The weapon slices into Perrin's body, but he rips it out and hurls it away. Loial eventually throws it toward Bane and Kayad's direction, and at one point, it nearly chokes Kayad before Loial intervenes. Meanwhile, the stranger continues stabbing Nynaeve, and Mat remains entranced by his cards, unable to break free. Moiraine and Lan listen to the chaos, but stay put, as this was part of their deal with Lanfear. She orchestrated this event to separate Rand from his friends. Desperate to survive, Egwene channels and shatters one of the mirrors, causing one of the Alt-Rands to disappear. However, another Alt-Rand stabs her in the gut. Realizing the mirrors are the key, Egwene tells Rand to destroy them all. The real Rand channels, smashing the remaining mirrors, though he seems to enjoy it a little too much. Egwene urges him to let go of the power. Elsewhere, Loial buries the axe into the floor, breaking off the handle. Unable to remain idle any longer, Lan grabs his sword and kills the cloaked stranger. Moiraine rushes in and heals Nynaeve's wounds. Later, Moiraine and Lan confront Lanfear, accusing her of going too far. Nynaeve was stabbed 11 times, and Moiraine describes the assassin as a gray man, an unnatural being only one Forsaken could create. Realizing who is responsible, Lanfear urges them to take Rand and leave Tar Valon immediately. The next day, Nynaeve and Mat reveal their plans to stay behind in Tar Valon, while Perrin decides to return to the Two Rivers with Loial, Bane, and Kayad. Since Loial saved the maidens' lives, they now offer their protection. Egwene, however, insists on staying with Rand. Before parting ways, Lan gives Nynaeve his mother's ring, saying that he wouldn't want anyone else as his queen. Avienda agrees to accompany Rand, offering him a chance to prove he is the Kari Karn. However, Rand has a new plan they are not going to tear. Instead, they are heading to the Ale Waste, where he will raise an army to defeat the Shadow. Meanwhile, Moghedien tortures a white cloak named Gaim, transforming him into a gray man, preparing him for his next mission. With the Forsaken plotting in the shadows, Rand forging his own path, and the White Tower divided, the battle for the world's fate is only beginning. Episode 2 begins with a flashback set 20 years in the past, showing how Elaine's mother, Queen Morgase, rose to power. This entire sequence serves to establish her character, making it clear that she is not someone to be underestimated. She is highly strategic, politically astute, and fully aware of her own power. More importantly, she knows exactly how to wield it. In this scene, representatives from various noble houses stand before her, seeking her forgiveness. She outwardly presents herself as merciful, telling them that she forgives them in the name of ushering in an era of peace. However, despite her words of clemency, she makes it clear that their survival is not part of the plan. In a shocking turn, she has their house's advisors execute the leaders on the spot, an incredibly ruthless and effective move. This opening scene perfectly sets the tone, showing just how cunning and formidable she truly is. In the present day, Queen Morgase arrives at the tower for a visit, wanting to check on her daughter. This leads to an amusing moment where Sueon, as a display of power, deliberately keeps the queen waiting, subtly asserting dominance since Morgase is currently under her roof. First, the two princes are introduced, followed by the queen's consort, essentially her lover. There's also a small but intriguing moment where Sueon's advisor, her right-hand woman, briefly forgets or hesitates when addressing a particular noble. This detail, seemingly minor at first, later plays into a surprising twist that no one saw coming. It's a testament to the writer's skill this season, and it definitely makes the show all the more engaging. Once all introductions are made, it becomes clear that the consort is meant to be a stepfather figure to Elaine, but there's much more to him than meets the eye. The Queen of Ander demands to see Elaine, suspecting that something significant has happened at the tower. However, the Aes Sedai are keeping details under wraps. She insists, "I want to see my daughter. Where is she? I need to know that she's safe." Meanwhile, Perrin and her group use one of the gates to return to the Two Rivers. Upon arrival, they realize that two others have passed through before them. Elaine, in turn, reunites with her brothers and stepfather, expressing genuine joy at seeing them. However, her happiness is short-lived when they inform her of their true purpose. They have come to take her back to Ander, where she must fulfill her duty to the throne. Elsewhere, the healers attempt to help Mat, but healing the mind is far more delicate, perhaps even impossible. They tell Nynaeve that whatever is plaguing Mat is something he must overcome on his own. Back at the tower, Sueon, also known as the Amerlin Seat, meets with Queen Morgase. She reassures her that, despite the troubling events at the tower, Elaine is completely safe. Sueon has no desire to enter into conflict with the Queen of Ander, as she understands just how powerful and calculating she is. To avoid unnecessary tension, she allows Morgase access to Elaine's chambers, making it clear that she genuinely wants the princess to stay at the tower. Sueon knows how powerful Elaine is and how crucial she will be in the battles to come. Morgase, however, remains firm in her stance. She wants Elaine to pass through the gates, become a fully trained Aes Sedai, and then return to Ander to take up her rightful place. She is well aware of the rising threat of the Dark One and believes her daughter will be safer in Ander rather than at the tower. Meanwhile, Rand trains with Lan, practicing swordsmanship as a means of self-defense. Since he is reluctant to channel, he needs to ensure he has another way to fight. Elsewhere, Moiraine has a conversation with a certain individual and notices scars that she distinctly remembers healing back in Tar Valon. She questions why they have reappeared. Are they connected to Rand? The person denies it, explaining that the scars are the result of something else entirely, tied to a dream-related phenomenon. Finally, Moiraine makes it clear that she has no interest in controlling Rand. Instead, she warns the individual that, given their closeness to him, they will likely be the first to notice any changes or signs of danger. As the conversation continues, one character warns that when Rand eventually loses control, they need to be prepared for it. At this moment, Egwene returns from hunting a rabbit for their meal, and Moiraine and Egwene take the opportunity to question her about the ale prophecies. Egwene explains that ale prophecies are not as straightforward as others might assume. There are many contradictions. She refers to Rand as the Kare-Karn and states that while he is prophesied to save them, he is also destined to bring about their destruction. She admits that she doesn't fully understand the meaning of this contradiction, but it doesn't change her duty. Regardless of how she feels about it, she must bring Rand to her people. Meanwhile, Perrin and his group arrive in the Two Rivers, where the atmosphere is tense. Locals watch them cautiously, and white cloaks are scattered throughout the village. They soon encounter an innkeeper who greets Perrin, though she barely recognizes him. She warns them that they are not safe. Their white cloaks are actively searching for them. She offers to hide them in the attic, mentioning that the other two are already hiding there. Confused, Perrin and his companions ask what she means, only to discover that Alanna and her last surviving warder are also in the Two Rivers. It's a surprising revelation, as no one expected them to be the ones who had used the gates earlier. Back at the tower, Queen Morgase speaks privately with her advisor, who is a member of the Red Ajah. They both acknowledge that the Amyrlin seat is keeping secrets from them. Morgase even suggests that she could overthrow her, but her advisor warns against it. Despite growing discontent among some, the Amyrlin still has strong support, making any direct move against her unwise. Instead, they need to act with patience and strategy. Meanwhile, the Amyrlin seat summons Min for a private meeting. Min, who has been working at the tower as part of the housekeeping staff, has actually been placed there strategically. Her role allows her to stay close to influential individuals and report back. Since she possesses the ability to see the future, her insights are invaluable. However, Min clarifies that her visions don't work in precise ways. She shares that she has seen countless dead Aes Sedai and warders at the tower, but she cannot determine exactly when this event will take place. It could happen tomorrow, a year from now, or even a decade later, but it is inevitable. Elsewhere, the two princes engage in a public sparring match, clearly meant to impress the women of the tower. Their display of skill and confidence has the desired effect, as several women are visibly taken in by their performance. Matt watches the spectacle unfold, but it's clear that it's nothing more than an elaborate act of flirtation. Later, an interaction between Elaine and Nynaeve takes a playful turn. Nynaeve makes a remark about royals being spoiled, then quickly adds, "No offense, Elaine." Elaine, unfazed, responds with a smirk, none taken especially coming from a woman who's sleeping with an actual king. Despite the humor, Nynaeve picks up on something deeper. She notices that Elaine doesn't seem entirely happy after reuniting with her family. When she asks about it, Elaine explains that in her experience, whenever her family appears, they are usually plotting something. And right now, she is certain that her mother and brothers are scheming behind the scenes. The Amyrlin seat then calls Elaine and Nynaeve for a private meeting. When they arrive, they ask what's going on, and she confesses that at this point, she can't trust many people within the tower. However, she is certain that neither of them are dark friends. Because of this, she has an important mission for them. Curious, they ask what she wants them to do. The Amyrlin seat tasks them with hunting down Liandrin. Since they cannot remain in the tower indefinitely, their mission will take them beyond its walls. She is confident that both Elaine and Nynaeve possess enough raw power to defeat Liandrin. Furthermore, she points out that during the confrontation in the throne room, Liandrin had the opportunity to kill Nynaeve, but she didn't. This suggests that there is some kind of connection or weakness that they can exploit. Their goal is to get close to Liandrin and take her down. After leaving the meeting, Elaine and Nynaeve discuss whether they can even trust the Amyrlin seat at this point. Nynaeve is certain about one thing: they can only truly trust each other. They agree to carry out the mission and put an end to Liandrin. However, Elaine then drops a bombshell: she cannot go through with it because she will be returning home to Ander, as per her mother's wishes. Nynaeve is visibly disappointed. She expected more from Elaine and now feels like she cannot trust her either. With frustration evident on her face, she walks away without another word. The innkeeper takes a moment to explain to Perrin exactly why the White Cloaks are after him. It all stems from the fact that he killed one of their generals. On top of that, many people believe that Perrin is a dark friend due to his unusual golden eyes, which only adds to their suspicion. Additionally, the White Cloaks have been the ones keeping the Trollocs away. Understanding the danger his presence brings to the village, Perrin makes a difficult decision. He realizes that if he turns himself in, the White Cloaks will stop harassing the villagers. With that in mind, he declares, "I have to hand myself over. That's the only way to keep them from bothering you all anymore." Meanwhile, we cut to Rand's group, where we get a glimpse of both Rand's dreams and Egwene's nightmares. In Rand's dream, Selene is doing everything she can to keep him emotionally attached to her, trying to make him stay in love with her. But Rand resists, insisting that he can't continue loving her, that his priorities have changed. As the dream sequence unfolds, we learn that it's actually Selene who has been manipulating Egwene's dreams all along. While she spends time romancing Rand in the dream world, she has also been terrorizing Egwene, using her trauma to torment her. At this point, it seems obvious that Rand should have realized the connection when Egwene mentioned her nightmares, but of course, the show needs its drama. In an attempt to escape her terrifying dream, Egwene finds herself in a vast desert landscape where she encounters an old woman. The woman looks at her and simply states, "You do not belong here." Elsewhere, Min pays a visit to Mat, attempting to apologize for what she did trying to sell him out to one of the Dark One's followers. But Mat isn't in a forgiving mood. He wants nothing to do with her right now. Elaine, meanwhile, goes to meet her mother but finds that she isn't in her chambers. Instead, she ends up sharing a conversation with her stepfather. He tells Elaine that while her mother does want her back in the kingdom for her own safety, there's more to it than that. The kingdom is experiencing significant political turmoil, and having a daughter who is both royalty and trained as an Aes Sedai would strengthen the queen's position considerably. We then get a humorous little moment between the Merlin seat and Mat. She brings up the topic of the Horn of Valir, teasing Mat about his role in blowing it. Mat, caught off guard, awkwardly admits, "Yeah, that was me." The Merlin seat then reminds him of the true nature of the horn. It can summon great heroes from the past to aid in battle, but once the current wielder dies, someone else can claim it. Mat is visibly shocked by this revelation. The Merlin seat then casually asks if he has been boasting about it or allowing people to sketch his likeness. Of course, we know Mat has been doing exactly that, but he quickly denies it, claiming, No, I would never." Amused, the Merlin seat decides that it would be best if the horn remained in her safekeeping, and Mat has no choice but to agree. Later, Elaine finally has her long-awaited conversation with her mother. She expresses her feelings, explaining that she cannot keep living in her mother's shadow. "Your shoes are too big for me to fill," she admits. Elaine emphasizes that while her heart and future will always be tied to Ander, she isn't ready to return just yet. She wants to finish her training as an Aes Sedai first. The queen listens to her daughter's words and, though reluctant, acknowledges her wisdom. "You have grown wise, my little daughter," she says. Meanwhile, Moiraine grows frustrated with Rand, questioning why he is spending time training with Lan instead of honing his abilities with the One Power. Rand explains that he trains with Lan because Lan actually listens to him. He then tries to make Moiraine understand the internal struggle he faces, the temptation and danger of the One Power. He describes it as a sweetness that fills his being, but beneath that sweetness, there's a poisonous bitterness that he can't ignore. Yet, despite knowing the risk, he still craves it. Moiraine tells him that this is something only he can figure out. He must continue using the One Power to learn the difference between the sweetness and the bitterness to truly understand what he is dealing with. As Queen Morgase prepares to leave, she issues a final warning. She may be returning to her kingdom, but Egwene is staying behind. She makes it clear that if anything happens to her daughter, she will return with the full force of her army. And then we will see what happens when Ander's army faces off against the Aes Sedai. However, before departing, she makes one last move. She leaves behind a trusted advisor to remain in the tower. It's a strategic decision, as she is essentially planting a spy in enemy territory to keep watch and potentially manipulate events from within. Finally, Rand's group nears the Ale homeland. Avienda suddenly becomes alert, sensing something is wrong. Who told them? She demands. The others are confused. Who told what? Before they can process what she means, they are ambushed by a group of Ale warriors. An elderly woman steps forward, and Rand immediately recognizes her. It's the same old woman that Egwene saw in her dreams. And with that, the episode comes to a close. Episode 3 of The Wheel of Time delivers a shocking revelation right at the start. Elaine's stepfather, whom everyone believed to be a loyal consort, is revealed to be one of the Dark One's followers. The episode begins with Lanfear meeting with Lord Gabriel, who is actually Raven, a Forsaken, alongside Samwell. Since the Forsaken have only been free for 2 months, Raven couldn't have been with the Queen for longer than that. Yet, due to his power, the world perceives their love story as spanning over a decade, and he is even recognized as the Prince Consort. During their meeting, Lanfear expresses concern about Moghedien's ambitions. Moghedien is systematically eliminating the Chosen, one by one, in her pursuit to become Nameless, the Dark One's second in command. Lanfear, worried that she will be the next target, calls on Raven and Samwell for counsel. However, unbeknownst to her, Moghedien and Raven have already formed an alliance. Raven, though skeptical about working against other Forsaken, is clearly keeping secrets from Lanfear. It remains to be seen what he and Moghedien are truly planning. Meanwhile, Elaine and Nynaeve leave Perrin behind to interrogate the 2 Aes Sedai who attempted to assassinate Siuan. While Aes Sedai are bound by their oaths and cannot lie, Elaine and Nynaeve have no such restrictions, giving them an advantage in the interrogation. One of the captured Aes Sedai, Amiko, reveals crucial information about the Black Aja's structure. Each member belongs to a small group called the Heart, consisting of 3 Aes Sedai who know each other's allegiance to the Black Aja. Beyond that, each member only knows of one other Black Aja outside their heart. Despite threats even as far as Elaine and Nynaeve pretending they would kill them, the captives remain tight-lipped about deeper secrets. Amiko does let one thing slip: Liandrin is heading to Tear to aid a Forsaken in claiming the calendar. However, Calendar is protected, and only the Dragon Reborn has the power to break the barriers around it. On the other hand, the other captive, Joya, offers conflicting information claiming that Liandrin is actually in Chaldea, searching for the false dragon, Mazrim Taim. This conflicting intel leaves Elaine and Nynaeve with a difficult choice. Elsewhere, Min visits Elaida in her quarters, where the Red Aja leader appears to be suffering from an unexplained illness. Min presents herself as Elaida's servant for the time being, and Elaida, always one to seize an opportunity, accepts. Nynaeve goes to Liandrin's house, where she is trying to care for her very, very sick son. This is where the symbol, drawn from chalk and salt, is noticed. Back at the Red Aja, she tries to get a private meeting with Mother, but they refuse, telling her she cannot have a meeting without a sitter present since she is not a sitter herself. They also insist she must make an appointment first. So, she returns to the Red Aja members who are actually inside the tower. These 2 are the ones she needs to talk to. They greet her with a sarcastic welcome home, I guess. Of course, she tries to win them over with gifts. She hands the standing one a gift of strawberries and offers a necklace to the seated one, but the seated woman refuses. Instead, she asks, "All right, so what do you really want?" After presenting the gifts, she explains that she wants to call a vote because she does not want Mother to remain as the Amerlin seat. She believes she was very close to defeating Mother when she took the position before and feels she can succeed this time. However, the Red Aja members tell her that they can see she came with plans and schemes, but they have other matters to handle right now. Rand's group, while being escorted by the Ale who ambushed them, stumbles upon an area where a traveling caravan has been attacked. They are shocked because they believe the Ale wouldn't do this, but apparently, another faction of Ale is responsible, an entirely different group that goes around killing people. It seems they will encounter this group soon enough. Perrin visits his family's graveyard, where he sees the tree that bloomed from his dead wife's grave. In his family's tradition, the dead are buried with an apple tree seed in their hand, so the entire graveyard has become an orchard in a way. This is when Alana talks to him about losing a warder. In her family's tradition, they wear the ashes of their deceased loved ones on their faces like war paint, keeping them there until the paint fully absorbs into their skin. She also speaks about grief, explaining that when a husband or wife loses their spouse, they mourn differently than she and her remaining warder do because they are connected through the bond. She is trying to protect him, but the emotions are overwhelming for both of them. Two Ale women attempt to play the maiden game with the warder, but he refuses, saying he has played before. They then notice him applying something to his sword, possibly the ashes of his deceased husband. Though he was his warder, they were essentially married, and this might be a tradition of some kind. Meanwhile, a man and a woman enter the inn, saying they heard Perrin is there, the very man the White Cloaks are searching for. The man appears to be a fake lord, but Perrin steps forward and admits, "Yes, I am Perrin. I killed their general, and I believe that if I turn myself in, they will leave you all alone." We then shift to the White Cloaks, where it is revealed that the General Perrin thought he killed is actually still alive. They are also holding Mat's mother and sister hostage, and Perrin will need to find a way to rescue them. Meanwhile, Mat and Min have another conversation. Min tries once again to apologize to Mat, but she explains why she did what she did because Ishamael was threatening to take away her visions. However, Mat is still not ready to forgive her, and the conversation doesn't go the way she hoped. Elaine and Egwene are going through books, trying to decipher the meaning of the symbol they found in Liandrin's house. They discover that it is an ancient symbol, used in a ritual where one symbol is placed where someone died and another where they were born, possibly as a way to summon them back from the dead. This is when Nynaeve realizes she knows where the location is. It's connected to the Shanchan, close to Tanchico. This means Nynaeve, Elaine, and Egwene must go there. A gray man suddenly attacks Elaine and Nynaeve, and no one detects his presence inside the tower due to his abilities. Elaine blasts him away, and when they go to check on him, they realize he is dead, stabbed by someone else. Perrin arrives and sees the body, asking what happened. They tell her about the attack, and she assures them they are safe and should lock their doors. However, as Nynaeve and Elaine leave, Nynaeve points out that Perrin never mentioned anything about the stab wound, which makes them suspicious. She tells Elaine, "I don't think we can trust her. We need to leave now." Meanwhile, Liandrin and her group arrive in Tanchico. They return to a building where a wedding is taking place. The sight of the wedding triggers Liandrin's memories of her own wedding, the place where she gave birth to her son. She remembers how she was forced into marriage as a child, and she refuses to let that happen to anyone else. Without hesitation, she orders her group to kill everyone. Liandrin tells a little girl that she is going to help her and introduces her to Naomi. Naomi has the ability to scramble people's memories, and Liandrin instructs her to erase all of the girl's memories, saying it's better if she doesn't remember anything at all. Meanwhile, Auntie Red Aja talks to Min after realizing that she was asked to be her handmaiden just so she could be watched closely. During their conversation, she reveals that she, too, has the power to see the future, though her visions are different from Min's. While Min's ability works in a more passive way, Auntie Red Aja can actively place herself in favorable positions based on what she sees. She recalls a vision in which she foresaw Queen Morghese becoming ruler and how aligning herself with her would be to her advantage. She then tells Min that she knows Min is supposed to report everything to Mother, but she wants to share something just between them. When Min asks what it is, Auntie Red Aja reveals that the Red Aja is about to vote on whether or not to send a team to capture Rand and control him. It's clear that Min will report this to Mother, which means she is playing right into Auntie Red Aja's hands. Egwene has a conversation with the old woman she saw in her dreams. She acknowledges that Egwene has PTSD from her past experiences, but points out that Rena, the one who tormented her, is dead. Since dead people cannot harm others in dreams, the fact that Egwene still carries physical bruises means that whoever is invading her dreams is very much alive. Meanwhile, Rand has a conversation with Lanfear, who tells him that there is a special sword he can use, but there is also a sword meant for a woman. She explains that if both a man and a woman wield these weapons together, they can actually kill the Dark One. Rand is skeptical, questioning whether the Dark One can truly be killed. Lanfear insists that it's possible and adds that if they succeed, she will be free from her dark oaths. This makes Rand suspicious. In another scene, Lan and Moiraine are participating in an ale steam bath ritual. They are sitting in the intense heat, sweating it out, and Lan comments that it is too hot for them. As they endure the steam, the prophecy and Rand's upcoming trial are brought up. Moiraine asks what will happen to the ale community if Rand successfully passes the trial, but she doesn't receive a clear answer. During this moment, Lan and Moiraine also discuss a woman who seems to be watching them. Lan teases Moiraine, telling her that she's allowed to have some fun now and then. Moiraine responds by admitting that it has been a long time since she was with someone, but she believes the woman is actually eyeing Lan, not her. Lan, however, reminds her that he is with Nynaeve now, so he's not interested. But then he notices that the woman has a tattoo on her back, one from his homeland. Intrigued, he follows her and asks about it. The woman explains that she was taken in and raised by the ale, but she always believed that the true king of Malkier was still out there and would one day lead the charge to reclaim their lost kingdom. Lan, however, dismisses the idea, saying that the kingdom is gone and he has no interest in taking it back. But the woman insists that if he truly wants it, the kingdom can be restored. At the town hall, there is a discussion about Perrin's decision to surrender himself to the White Cloaks. However, the innkeeper strongly opposes the idea, saying that they are from the Two Rivers and they protect their own. She refuses to let Perrin give himself up to the enemy. Meanwhile, Alanna and her warder, Maxim, or something close to that, have a conversation about grief and loss, particularly about losing Ivan, if that's his name. Maxim confesses that even though they are bonded, he feels as though Alanna isn't grieving Ivan's death at all. He doesn't sense any sadness from her, which deeply upsets him. Alanna, however, explains that she is deliberately suppressing her grief to protect him. Because they are bonded, if she allows herself to fully experience her sorrow, Maxim will feel it too, and it would be too much for him to bear on top of his own pain. We then get a scene between Perrin and the new woman who has been introduced. She finds Perrin quite interesting and remarks that this is the first time she has seen someone stopped from surrendering to the White Cloaks. The town, however, stands firm, saying, "No, no, we'll protect him." Meanwhile, Mat and Min continue their conversation, and Min has another vision this time. She sees Mat hanged and apparently dead. Mat immediately notices her reaction and says, "Oh, I recognize that expression." Before she can answer, Elaine's brothers spot them and approach, asking, "Min, is this guy troubling you?" Min quickly brushes it off, saying, No, he's not," and walks away. The Amyrlin then devises a strategy to break the Red Ajah's influence, particularly by targeting the sitter. She sends her right-hand woman to tell the sitter that the Red Ajah must act immediately and retrieve the false dragon. Once the sitter leaves, Anti-Red Ajah realizes the power vacuum and smirks, knowing that they will have to elect a new sitter, and of course, she plans for it to be her. Despite the townspeople agreeing not to let Perrin surrender, they decide it's time to return to their farmlands. Perrin is furious. "Are you guys mad? Do you not know what the Trollocs will do to you? How the heck are you going to defend yourselves alone?" They insist they'll figure it out, but Perrin warns, "Even the White Cloaks scare me. The best chance we have of survival is staying here in Two Rivers." Earlier in the season, Perrin told Rand he's not a leader, but it seems like he is going to train the village people, forming an army of sorts, possibly the people of the dragon who will help Rand later on. I could be wrong, but we'll see. Matt is training with his bow staff when the princes approach, joking about his farmhand origins. Then Nynaeve arrives, saying, "Matt, I need to talk to you." She tells him that she and Elaine are going after Lindren. But for some reason, she's having this conversation right in front of the two princes. Why? "Why are you doing that, Nynaeve?" Matt responds, "You can leave, but you're not leaving without me. I'm coming too." This leads to the two brothers challenging Matt, and he confidently replies, "Really? You know I can take both of you, right? I can give each of you 2 marks." They accept the challenge, and Matt sighs, clearly annoyed. Then, unexpectedly, he speaks in the old tongue. This moment confirms something intriguing. Apparently, the voices in Matt's head allow him to channel the battle skills of warriors from the past. Using this ability, he wields his bow staff and defeats both brothers with ease. The woman, whose name supposedly means falcon, approaches Perrin and says, "Even though you didn't surrender to the White Cloaks, I know you're going to try and save Matt's sisters and mother, aren't you?" Perrin responds, "Yep, that's exactly my plan. Matt is my friend, he's like family to me. I have to make sure his family is safe." Falcon replies, "The hunt is in my bloodline, but there's something about her expression that gives me Dark One vibes. We know the Dark One's forces are targeting Rand's friends, so could she be working against him? She keeps bringing up the hunt, which makes me suspicious." Elaine, Nynaeve, and Matt are ready to leave for OK. I want to call it Torek like the Pokemon, but it's actually Tar Valon or something similar. Min also joins them, so the 4 of them are off to stop Lindren. Meanwhile, Lindren draws the same mark she used in Tar Valon, likely preparing some dark magic to summon her son back from the dead. She then speaks with Naomi, who is reading more about the ancient bracelet they have. Apparently, the collar that matches it is somewhere in Tar Valon, and the bracelet is meant to control a man. It seems Lindren's plan is to wear the bracelet herself and place the collar on Rand, effectively binding the dragon reborn under her control. While all of this is happening, a woman with a teapot listens in on their conversation and then walks away. This is the Spider Lady, and she clearly has her own plans. There's no way she will allow Lindren to collar Rand. That's simply not happening. And with that, episode 3 ends. The episode opens in the Aiel Waste, where Lan trains Rand in sword fighting while Moiraine and Egwene watch from a distance. Rand, despite his growing skills, struggles with understanding his place among the Aiel. He is Aiel by blood, but his upbringing in the Two Rivers has left him feeling disconnected from their culture. As they rest, Rand and Lan discuss Tam Althor, the man who raised him. Tam was both a blade master and a humble shepherd, and this contrast reflects the conflict within Rand himself. While he knows that he must go through the trial, Moiraine is not so sure about it yet. Her suspicions about his failure are made worse when the wise ones let slip that should a person fail the trial, they never come back. Back at the camp, Avienda warns Rand against using swords in Meridian, reinforcing that the Aiel do not touch swords. This leads to a sparring match between Rand and Lan, with Rand eager to prove himself. However, when Avienda fights Rand, she quickly overpowers him, knocking him to the ground. This moment further emphasizes how different Rand's combat training is from that of the Aiel warriors. When Lan and Avienda spar, their fight is more evenly matched, but before a winner is determined, Melindra intervenes, reminding Avienda that she is destined to be a wise one, not a maiden of the spear. Avienda has spent her life running from her true purpose, but now she must face her fate. Reluctant to give up her weapons, she ran away in search of another purpose, but now that she has returned, she must answer the call. For her to take the next step in her journey, she, too, must go through the trial, and she ventures into the land the very night. Rand has chosen to embrace the Aiel prophecy rather than follow Moiraine's original plan of traveling to Tear to retrieve Calendar. Instead, he must prove himself through the trial of Meridian. Moiraine is deeply uneasy about this, fearing that Rand is not prepared for what he will face. The wise ones warn her that those who fail the trial never return, making her even more concerned. That night, Avienda learns that she, too, must undergo a trial. Before she left the Aiel Waste, she had been chosen to become a wise one, but she ran away, unwilling to abandon her weapons. Now that she has returned, she must face her destiny. The next morning, Rand, Moiraine, Lan, and Egwene are taken to the edge of Viridian, a fog-covered city hidden deep within the waste. Only those who receive permission from the Wise Ones can enter. Another Aiel warrior is already inside undergoing his own trial, and his people are prepared to send another if he fails. Rand immediately asks for permission and is granted entry. Those who survive Viridian are marked with a dragon because the Aiel are the people of the dragon, but there is always one mark on the left arm. However, the prophecy says that the Karn will be marked twice so the Aiel can identify him. As you can imagine, there is some protest to let Rand go through, since he is not truly Aiel, even if his blood says otherwise. But the Wise One handles it. Moiraine, despite her doubts, also asks for permission. She realizes that she can no longer control Rand's choices, but she refuses to let him face this alone. The Wise Ones, who expected this, grant her permission. Before entering, they are warned that Rand will experience visions of the past, stepping into the lives of his ancestors to truly understand his people's history, while Moiraine will see glimpses of possible futures, helping her grasp the consequences of their actions. Before they cross the boundary into the city in the clouds, they are told what it will be like for each of them. For Moiraine, the trial is about looking into the future, with its myriad possibilities, to understand what direction the present will take. For Rand, every step that he takes will lead him into a previous life, connecting him to his ancestors, so it is through his past that he can truly understand who he is. Any man who survives the trial gets a mark of the dragon on their right hand. However, in the case of the Karn, the mark would appear on both hands, and that's how his identity will be confirmed. As Rand and Moiraine enter the mist-shrouded city, they come across Avendezera, the Tree of Life, an ancient tree that has existed for over 3,000 years. Moiraine explains that a sapling of Avendezera was once gifted to Carrion as a sign of peace, but when her uncle became king, he cut it down to craft a unique throne. This act of betrayal enraged the Aiel, sparking the Aiel War, in which the Aiel crossed the spine of the world and waged war against Carrion. Eventually, they killed Moiraine's uncle at Dragonmount, fulfilling their revenge. Rand realizes that this war is the reason his mother was at Dragonmount when she gave birth to him, meaning that his entire existence was shaped by events set into motion long before he was born. Rand steps forward into the glass columns, which transport him into visions of his ancestors. Rand walks away from Moiraine and heads toward the glass forest. As he steps into the area, an unusual sensation washes over him. Suddenly, he finds himself transported into the past, now experiencing life as Janduin, his own father during the war. Janduin, a tribal chief of the Aiel, stands in battle with blood on his hands and a spear in his grip. Amid the aftermath, he discovers his wife Rand's mother lying dead in the snow, with no child in sight. It was Janduin who once killed Moiraine's uncle and secured victory in the war long ago, weaving their fates even tighter together. With the next step, Rand transforms into Mandian, the chief of a partially built Viridian. He converses with his wife, expressing agreement with the Aes Sedai. Other chiefs join them inside Viridian, where an elderly Aes Sedai named Latra reveals the prophecy. She tells the chiefs that they must undergo the same trial Rand now faces, but only one among them will survive to guide the Aiel on the correct path. A few more steps transport Rand into the life of Luwin, grandson of Adon. In this era, the Aiel live in wagons, and the Tree of Life exists only as a small sapling in a pot. Luwin and his two friends discover that his sister and another girl have been captured by bandits. Bound by an oath of nonviolence, they attempt to rescue the girls. However, in the struggle, Luwin kills one of the bandits who had slain his friend. As a result, he and the surviving boy are cast out from the tribe, even abandoned by their own families. Despite the rejection, Luwin resolves that if the Aiel refuse to fight, then he must protect them from external threats. This moment marks the beginning of a division within the Aiel, those who follow the way of the spear, born from Luwin's use of a spear to take a life. Next, Rand becomes an ancestor of Adon and Jonai. The Aiel wagons lie in ruins, and Aiden's parents appear to have perished. While Jonai departs with part of the tribe, Adon chooses to stay with his grandfather, refusing to break his oath. Together, they bury Aiden's mother, who had foreseen the city of Viridian in a vision. Rand then finds himself standing with Latra Sedai during the Age of Legends. He tells her the wagons are prepared, each carrying a fragment of the Tree of Life for protection. Latra responds that she has something else for him, but another Aes Sedai warns against it. Latra reminds her that the Aiel have demonstrated great courage through their peaceful ways and assures her that the item will be safe with them. However, she also points out that Lanfear allied with the Dark One, making it too dangerous to entrust the object to the Aes Sedai. In her hands, she holds the most powerful Esangriel in existence, the same one Lanfear once told Rand about and, seemingly, the same one Moiraine has just stolen. Latra urges the Aiel to remain faithful to the Way of the Leaf, and as the man who resembles Rand grips the Esangriel, he takes an oath upon it. Finally, Rand finds himself inside a massive, futuristic-looking sphere, where he encounters Mirian Sedai, later known as Lanfear. She asks him if he belongs to the place they are observing, a field where the Aiel, though they may not yet bear that name, sing as they work. He inquires about their discovery, though it may not be his place to ask. Lanfear explains that they have found the weakest point in the pattern, a gateway that will allow them to see beyond. She believes it holds the secret to immense power, something that could bring prosperity and convenience to the world. Then, she sends Rand's ancestor into the field, instructing him to join his family in song. As he obeys, the sphere above them shatters, causing a rift to tear open in the sky. This moment marks Lanfear's fateful act, unleashing the Dark One into the world. The wheat farmer, standing amidst the chaos, finally comprehends what she has done. Rand awakens, lying unconscious on the ground in Viridian. His vision of the past has ended, and his trial is complete. The two markings of the dragon now blaze upon his arms, confirming him as the Kari Karn. Meanwhile, Moiraine taps into her power, retrieving a small white sphere from within Avendezera. She secures it in her bag before moving on, only to find Avienda suspended midair within a set of rings, screaming in slow motion. As Moiraine steps forward, she is pulled into the same phenomenon. She experiences visions of the future, caught in an endless cycle of possibilities, never revealing a definite outcome. In one vision, she is a queen, punishing Rand, who pleads with her not to make a mistake only for her to slit his throat. In another, she severs her bond with Lan and instead bonds with Rand. She watches Lan perish in flames, showing no remorse. Then, she cradles a lifeless Rand in her arms. In the next set of visions, Moiraine is alone while everyone is against her. She watches her own throat get slit by Lanfear multiple times in different locations. She sees herself sleeping with Rand, who then becomes Lanfear, who starts choking her. In every future, Lanfear appears and kills Moiraine, confirming that she is destined to die at Lanfear's hands unless she finds a way to change her fate. On the other hand, Egwene and Lan discuss how it's been 7 days and Avienda came out on day 5. Egwene thinks they should go in after them, but Lan reminds her that they want them to stay. Egwene is simply too young to understand how important it is to follow the rules here. If she had ended up going inside, she'd probably have ended up dying. Rand finds Avienda, and he apologizes for not understanding about the swords. She's annoyed that he thinks he understands now, but he tells her that that is not the case. He's seen why the Aiel believe so much in the Way of the Leaf and why non-violence has been so important to them. Rand may never truly be Aiel. Avienda leaves because Rand says he won't leave Moiraine behind. At the end of the Wheel of Time episode 4, Rand returns with Moiraine in his arms. She looks nearly dead, but they're both alive and returned from Viridian. Rand gives Moiraine to Lan, and Egwene hugs him in relief. The episode concludes with the group preparing for the next stage of their journey, as the stakes grow higher than ever before.
Episode 5 starts out with Moiraine channeling with the Sarkarnan, struggling with its strength. Moiraine is having serious difficulty trying to wield the sangreal. As she channels through the artifact, she initially holds its immense energy with relative ease. However, as the power intensifies, she begins to struggle, realizing the overwhelming force contained within the ancient orb. The sequence builds tension as Moiraine's grip falters, her mind reeling from the raw magic coursing through her. Just as she nears her breaking point, Alan steps in, steadying her as she gasps for breath. He seizes the moment to ask what she saw in the rings of Ruideen, but she remains tight-lipped. It's a moment of frustration, not just for her, but also for Lan, who can feel the hunger in her as she struggles to tap into the power. Then we shift to Rand and the Isle as they travel deeper into the Isle Waste. But this isn't just a travel scene. It's a glimpse into Rand's growing identity crisis. Surrounded by the Isle, he's constantly reminded that he isn't fully accepted as the Karakarn, their prophesied leader. This doesn't sit well with him, especially since the Isle are known for their strong sense of tradition and pride. While Rand has proven his worth in many ways, his struggle to truly connect with them is evident. Avienda, tasked with training him, is clearly not thrilled by the idea. One unexpected moment comes when Roark introduces his second wife, Lion, to Rand and the others. This is a bit of a culture shock for the Wetlanders. A polyamorous relationship like this is a stark contrast to their own traditions. The Isle way of life is vastly different, and it's clear that Rand's journey is about more than just survival. He's about to be confronted with an entirely new worldview. Avienda is tasked with following Rand around to teach him the ways of the Isle, but she's still angry. She doesn't accept him as Isle. Is she just untrusting of him? Or did she see something in the arches? We will have to wait and see. We then move to the White Tower, where Sue and Sanchi meet with Eleda. Eleda continues to push and threaten at every chance. She's calling for a vote to cage Rand, and the hostility is turned up to 20 when Eleda calls her river trash. She insults the room of the Emerlin seat and reminds Cywin that she came from the bottom of the barrel. She even tells her that she remembers how love-struck she was when she first met Moiraine back in the day. Eleda asks where Moiraine is now, and Cywin tells her she's been exiled. Cywin meets with Verin and Lean, and according to Verin's quick calculations, there is definitely one more dark friend in the tower. Cywin immediately suspects Eleda, but Verin insists on certainty. Their plan? Catch Eleda in a lie that breaks the three oaths or her collaborating with the prisoners. Back in Two Rivers, Fael tells Perrin that she's found White Cloaks, and if they want to get Matt's family back, now's their chance. And finally, Egwene gets official Tel'aran'rhiad training and promises the Wise Ones she will not enter without them. Anyone can touch the world of dreams, but few can enter it. We also learn that Isle Wise Ones can either channel or enter the world of dreams, and some can do both. We should keep this in mind because Avienda was just called to join the Wise Ones last episode. Egwene enters the dream world, and her anxiety turns her outfit into her armored Emerlin gown from her accepted test. In Tel'aran'rhiad, uncontrolled thoughts can be dangerous. Whatever you imagine can come to life. Not all dreams bring people into the dream world, but sometimes they can accidentally wander in, which is risky. And the woman hunting Egwene is stalking her in her dreams. Bear tells her that to get rid of the woman, she just needs to believe she's gone. In Tel'aran'rhiad, power comes from belief, not magic. The stronger your belief, the more control you have. And Egwene blips right into the empty streets of Tarvalon, only to come face to face with Lanfear, who chokes her just like Rena did in Season 2. The bell rings, Egwene exits, and the Wise Ones are spooked. They now realize Egwene is being stalked by a Forsaken. Now just a quick side note. Lanfear has many names. Last episode, we met her as Mirren Sedai. Last season, we'd heard a dark prophecy calling her Daughter of the Night. But there's one name the television show hasn't used yet, which is Moonhunter. Lanfear is so deadly in the dream world that there is a group of creatures that gave her a name to reflect that. But it's clear at this point she is just toying with Egwene. She's not so much trying to hurt her physically as attempting to scare her and traumatize her. Moving to the White Tower, Eleda and Alvarin walk the halls, and Eleda tries to convince her to vote in her favor. Eleda presses her to recognize that Cywin hasn't allied with the most important characteristic of the White Ajah, that Egwene has acted illogically. Elena says she's been working to destroy the tower from within, and she means to prove it. Book readers should be on full alert right now. And if you haven't read the books, remember this conversation. Perrin then sets a trap for Elena and has Adeliz lure her to the 13th depository to see her reaction when she sees Joya and Amiko. If she breaks the 3 oaths, she can be tried and killed as a dark friend. They need to catch her in a lie or see if she attempts to rescue them. We then move to a seafolk vessel with Nynaeve, Elaine, and Matt. They are supposed to stay below decks, but Elaine gets too curious about the amount of distance they've traveled, and everyone ends up breaking their promise. The sailmistress is introduced, and all you really need to remember is that in seafolk culture, the sailmistress is always a woman. She controls when and where the ship sails. It's just another example of the strong matriarchal societies within the Wheel of Time. Like the Io wise ones, her word is gospel, and she leads unquestioned. Also to note, surprise, surprise, Min is on board and has been following them. Back in the 2 Rivers, Natty Cawthon and her daughters are caged. Child Valda wants to torture them for answers, while Dane Bornhold just wants information on Perrin. When Natty tries to steal his keys, Dane catches her, but someone in the cage is a very strong channeler. It's not just a trickle, but enough to hurl him across the tent. Natty confesses she's the one who did it, and Dane drags her out of the cage and throws her at the feet of Valda for questioning. And now we have a rescue attempt on our hands. Perrin, Bane, and Chuad, Fail, and Alana and Maxim are going to work together to make this happen. While Perrin, Bane, and Chuad and Fail sneak into the camp, Alana and Maxim break off to create fog to conceal Perrin's rescue attempt. But Maxim is still grieving for Ivan, and we had some really powerful moments here. Alana knows in her heart that the last battle is coming, and the side of the light isn't ready for it. And in a way, she's right. Just look at what happened in the White Tower. She is in the 2 Rivers to build an army. She knows the history of the 2 Rivers, that this humble farming village is the birthplace of heroes, the greatest champions for the side of the light. There is something special about this place, and she's right. For people who haven't read the books, Manetheren is a place of legend, a place where one of the greatest battles in history took place, and the short summary of it is this. Alana knows this place is special, and she is certain it can be harnessed to beat the Dark One. But Maxim is still grieving. He wants to kill Leandrin, but Alana sees the bigger picture. This is why she is in the 2 Rivers. At Cold Rock's Old, Lan speaks with Melandra about Malkir's past, the festivals, the poetry, and the importance of living in the moment. On other side, Randall and Egwene have not been able to talk a lot. When they get a chance to strike up a conversation, they just kiss each other and Egwene leaves. Conversely, Moiraine is sitting alone by the fire while holding the sangreal in his hand when Owlin arrives there. They finally talk, and Moiraine tells her what she saw in the rings. She tells him that Randall only lives if she dies, and everything she does now won't even matter. They hug each other, and Moiraine asks Owlin to say something. To which Owlin replies if she saw that she was dying tonight, and Moiraine says no. As a result, Owlin wants her to enjoy the night with some great alcohol from Io. They both drink alcohol and just talk to each other. Back on the Seafolk ship, Matt learns what Min has been hiding. She's seen his death by hanging, and Elaine witnesses the Seafolk Windfinder channeling. This is how the ship is covering ground much faster than humanly possible, by channeling the wind and harnessing the weather. And this is why they were sequestered below deck. It's a secret that the Seafolk use channeling, and they don't want their young women sent to the White Tower. The sailmistress tells Elaine and Nynaeve, there are many ways to be a channeler, and many ways to be a woman, and this moment is huge. You can see the look in Nynaeve's eyes as she contemplates what this means. The sailmistress recognizes Nynaeve's block, her struggle against surrender. Channeling is like the sea. It can't be controlled, only embraced. It flows with or without consent. But Nynaeve clings to control, resisting the tide, while Elaine lets the current carry her. Stubborn defiance versus willing surrender. One fighting to hold her ground, the other allowing fate to guide her. To channel, Nynaeve must let go. As the lesson lingers, the group arrives at the harbor in Tenchiko. Matt finds a drawing of himself hanging in Min's room. She tells him it's her vision, and she tries to remember the details so she can change her dreams. He reminds her that her visions don't come true because she didn't kill Rand, but clearly this full thing has messed with his head. On the other hand, Elaine and Nynaeve watch the sea folk channel the power to push the boat forward. This is why the speed is so much higher, but this is also why they were meant to stay under deck, so they wouldn't learn the secret that the sea folk can channel the power so strongly. The sailmistress tells Nynaeve that the power isn't controllable. It's like the sea. If Nynaeve would just let go of her desire for control, she might be able to let it flow and actually channel. Finally, as they're reaching Tenchiko, Min tells the girls she's going to join them because she's been to Tenchiko before. Matt tells the girls that they can trust her. Back at the tower, Siwyn doesn't get the proof she wants about Aleida. She doesn't break any of the 3 oaths, but before she can reveal more, a gray man appears and nearly kills her. This is where Siwyn steps in, risking everything to save the woman and heal her wounds. This moment is pivotal. Siwyn saving a Black Aja member might mark a turning point in the balance of power. It also hints at an uneasy alliance. Despite their rivalry, Siwyn and Aleida may be forced to cooperate, at least for now. Both have a stake in uncovering the truth about the Black Aja and protecting the White Tower. It is Siwyn who saves her and heals her. Suppose we'll see Aleida and Siwyn put their differences aside and join forces now. Then Olenna creates Fog, Perrin, Bane, Chiad, and Fail rescue the Coffin twins. Perrin finds Nani Coffin burned at the stake. The White Cloaks have killed wolves, and while this is gut-wrenching to see, it serves a purpose. It antagonizes Perrin, but it symbolizes something bigger. Wolves in the Wheel of Time symbolize instinct, freedom, and the natural order. They are an ancient wisdom of this world, with a sworn hatred of the shadow. The White Cloaks, killing them and desecrating their bodies, is a bad omen, and metaphorically aligns them with the side of the dark. Perrin battles it out with Dane Bornhald. We see an impressive show of strength by Fail's fighting technique and knife skills. Olenna is attacked by Valda's men and is saved by Maxim after she takes multiple arrows. Then, in the World of Dreams, Rand meets Lanfear, remembering the woman he saw in Ruibian before her dark oaths. He's seen her humanity. She claims that she still wants to be good, and she loves him. All of him, both light and dark. Meanwhile, Moiraine enlists Egwene to take her to Siwynsench, leading to a heartfelt discussion. Moiraine warns Siwyn that if the White Tower does not kneel to Rand, he will lose the last battle. Their fates were set long ago. Moiraine to find Rand, and Siwyn to prepare the tower. For more on their history, New Spring is essential reading, and I cannot recommend it enough. Siwyn wishes they had never heard Katara's prophecy, lamenting the cruel paths that the wheel has spun for them. But she vows to find Moiraine in the next life until they get it right, and Moiraine promises to wait for her in every turn of the wheel again and again. This builds to my favorite moment. Egwene glimpsing the dreams of her friends, each a bittersweet vision of what could be. Nynaeve happy teaching her daughter to listen to the wind. Elaine, free, channeling on a seafolk ship in Evianda's arms. Matt, proud and successful, giving his sisters a better life. Perrin, at peace in the forge, with Hopper and Fail at his side. Finally, she sees Rand, and just as she's about to go up to him, she notices Lanfear kissing him. The episode ends with Egwene screaming no at the scene. The 6th episode of The Wheel of Time begins with a flashback to 95 years earlier, when Liandrin gives birth to her baby boy. She names him Alodrin. Liandrin imprisonment in a small dark cell, holding her crying infant in her arms. She tries to soothe him by whispering that he dislikes crying, casting nervous glances toward the door. Just as the baby quiets down, her husband and another man enter the cell, demanding that she surrender the child. Liandrin refuses, and when one of them attempts to attack her, she uses her powers to kill them both. She flees the cell and dashes into the city, pleading desperately for help, but no one heeds her cries. Exhausted, she collapses beneath a statue. Moments later, a man's voice calls out to her. It is Ishamael, one of the most powerful of the Forsaken. Taking her hand, he assures her that he will help. In the present, Lanfear visits Liandrin in her dreams. Within this dream, Liandrin holds the position of a Merlin seat. She tells Lanfear that she remained at the tower for as long as she could. However, Lanfear is curious about her presence in Tenchiko. She questions Liandrin about whether she is working for Raven, another member of the Forsaken. Liandrin insists that the Black Aja was solely loyal to Ishamael, but now that he is dead, their allegiance is uncertain. Lanfear suspects that Liandrin is attempting to sow discord among the Forsaken and warns her that she is playing a perilous game. As Liandrin kneels at Lanfear's feet, Lanfear informs her that one of the Black Aja has been swayed by Raven, and she commands Liandrin to eliminate her. Liandrin then speaks to the other members of the Black Aja about the shackled man. This individual is a man capable of channeling, controlled by 2 Aes Sedai through a pair of bracelets and a collar. Liandrin possesses one of the bracelets, while the other is believed to be in Tenchiko, though its exact location remains unknown. She tells the women that they must locate both the bracelet and the collar by the following day, or else their master will be displeased. Meanwhile, Moghedian lurks in the shadows, silently eavesdropping on Liandrin's discussion with the other Black Aja, biding her time until the opportune moment to act. Meanwhile, Nynaeve, Mat, Min, and Elaine prepare to track down Liandrin in Tenchiko. Dressed in disguises and keeping their faces concealed to avoid recognition, they blend into the crowd. While their mission includes searching for the objects, their primary goal is to reach Liandrin before she can harness the artifact's power to aid their enemies. While Nynaeve and her group continue their search for Liandrin, Moiraine and her companions press forward on their journey after their visit to Ruidian. Egwene, still shaken by the harrowing dream she experienced, approaches the Wise Ones and confesses that she entered the dreamworld alongside Moiraine. The Wise Ones are furious at her for doing so, but Egwene insists that she wants to stop Lanfear in Tel'aran'rhiod. However, they inform her that she cannot confront Lanfear in Tel'aran'rhiod itself, but within her own dreams, she does possess the power to take action. Meanwhile, Moiraine encounters Lanfear within her dream, where Lanfear questions her about what she witnessed in Ruidian. Moiraine remains tight-lipped, refusing to reveal anything, which leads Lanfear to assume that Moiraine is cooperating with her solely to avoid being killed. Their conversation concludes with Lanfear cryptically informing Moiraine that she is sending a surprise for Rand al'Thor and expects him to handle it. At the same time, Rand al'Thor is spending time with the people of the tribe, gradually building strong relationships with them. Alcera proudly shows Rand her squash plant, while Aviendha takes him on a tour of the town. At one point, Rand unknowingly picks up Alcera's spear, unintentionally disrespecting her. The young girl tells him that he can only make amends for his toe by harvesting her garden when it ripens. Meanwhile, Perrin is in dire need of healing, but Alanna is too unwell to assist him. After a somewhat successful attempt at rescuing the Coffin family, Perrin is left badly wounded. Naturally, the first thought would be to seek out an Aes Sedai for healing. Unfortunately, Alanna herself has been struck by multiple crossbow bolts and is unable to heal either herself or anyone else. Elsewhere, Mat spreads word in a bar about the bracelet and its matching collar that they need to locate, promising a handsome reward in return. He later meets Tom Merrilin, who is far from pleased to see him. Tom tells Mat that he can no longer offer any assistance, as it has already cost him too much. However, Mat persuades him by offering money, a drink, and the tail of the horn, ultimately convincing him to join. Meanwhile, Nynaeve and Min spend some time together, during which Min tries to get Nynaeve to loosen up. At one point, Min deceives a man by telling him that he is destined to marry an Aes Sedai, when in reality, she is actually going to kill him. This ruse is merely a tactic to lure people into conversation, allowing them to extract valuable information. Egwene is still struggling to figure out how to stop Lanfear in her dreams. She enters her dream world with the Wise Ones, who instruct her to push them out of her dream as a test of her abilities. At first, she fails, but after persistent effort, she finally succeeds in forcing them out. However, things take a turn for the worse when she, too, is abruptly ejected from her dream and finds herself chained to a monument resembling a wheel. Before she can react, Lanfear appears, confronting her about what she witnessed in her last dream and asking whether she enjoyed it. Egwene firmly states that Rand Althor does not know Lanfear's true reality, to which Lanfear counters that he does. Refusing to back down, Egwene warns that if Rand ever learns that Lanfear has harmed her, he will never forgive her. In response, Lanfear places a hand around Egwene's neck, and in that instant, Egwene is jolted awake. The Wise Ones urge her to remain strong, assuring her that only through resilience can she hope to defeat Lanfear. While Egwene attempts to re-enter the dreamworld, Moiraine and Rand have a conversation. Their discussion centers on the Sukarnon, with Moiraine warning Rand that if she submits to its power, it will be too much for her to bear. She then asks him how he manages to control such immense power. Rand explains that it is not about submission. One of the most important lessons he has learned is that the Aes Sedai do not know everything about the power. He tells her that he has had to fight the power constantly, and if he hadn't, he would not have survived this long. To illustrate his point, he demonstrates a small portion of what he is capable of. Meanwhile, Perrin, still recovering from his injuries, receives healing aid from a poultice prepared by the wisdom of two rivers. Sitting by the fire, he and Fael share an intimate conversation, one filled with vulnerability. Fael opens up about her past, revealing the events that led her to become a hunter of the Horn. She recounts how her brother's death and her mother's revelation as a dark fiend shaped her path. At the same time, a group of newly arrived White Cloaks volunteers to assist in dealing with the trouble brewing in Two Rivers. For the first time this season, Padan Fain makes an appearance, aligning himself with the White Cloaks. He assures them that he can aid their war against the people of Two Rivers. As the episode draws to a close, an army marches toward Two Rivers, signaling that the time for war has come. Elsewhere, Liandrin uses a weave to extract information about the collar from Naomu before ultimately killing her. Perrin and Alanna are both gravely injured. While Perrin desperately needs healing, Alanna is too wounded to help him. However, the two young girls whom Perrin previously saved arrive to visit Alanna, offering their assistance. Under Alanna's guidance, they channel their healing powers to restore her. As she recovers, she remarks to Maxim that she had always suspected there were channelers hidden in the mountains. Meanwhile, on the other side, Perrin finally opens up about the pain of losing his wife, Layla, in the tragic accident he caused. He also reveals his wolf brother nature, explaining that this is the reason behind his golden eyes. Fael is unbothered by either revelation, but her mood shifts when Perrin confesses that he knows exactly where the Horn of Valor is, and that his friend, Matt, has already blown it. However, the tension eases when Perrin silences her with a kiss, and it lightens further as Fael climbs onto his lap to continue it, at least until they are interrupted by Alanna and Maxim. Elsewhere, Matt acquires the second bracelet from a man who claims to have found it in his father's shop. In exchange, Matt gives him some money and then hands the bracelet over to Nynaeve. Tom shares information about the shackled man of Tenchiko. He warns Matt to stay away from Liandrin, and just as he is about to walk off, he spots Elaine and immediately recognizes her as the daughter heir of Andor. Unfortunately, one of the locals also recognizes her and presses a knife to her throat. Thinking quickly, Tom saves her by claiming that she is his apprentice, and they sing a song together to prove that she is from Tenchiko. The deception works, but trouble looms as one of the Black Aja discovers Nynaeve and Min's presence in Tenchiko. This information reaches Mavgadian, who mercilessly tortures and kills the woman to extract every detail she overheard. Mavgadian then turns her attention to Nynaeve and Elaine, using an enchantment to manipulate them into revealing what they know. Under her spell, they obey her every command. However, when Mavgadian attempts to take the bracelet from Nynaeve, something within her resists, almost as if she can sense what is happening. Unfortunately, her resistance is not enough, and Mavgadian successfully takes the bracelet for herself, once again leaving Elaine and Nynaeve empty-handed. At the very least, they still have one advantage. Moghedien does not know Rand's whereabouts. Before leaving, Moghedien tells Elaine that Ravin wants her dead, but admits that she personally finds both of them useful. As a final act, she wipes their memories before departing, leaving behind a dazed and bloodied Nynaeve. Meanwhile, Egwene attempts to confront Rand, but his response is a half-hearted apology. He insists that there are things she simply does not understand and wishes she could. Honestly, Rand is getting more frustrating by the day. He accuses Egwene of caring only about the Wise Ones since they arrived in the Isle Waste and of not caring about him at all. Egwene, in turn, starts to believe that Rand is already losing his sanity. Rand responds that if thinking that makes her feel better, then she should go ahead and believe it. He then tells her the harsh truth. She never truly wanted him, only the dragon reborn. Egwene then asks if Rand knew that Lanfear had been torturing her all this time. He claims he had no idea. Before their conversation can continue, they are suddenly ambushed by Samael. Could this be the surprise Lanfear was hinting at, or did Samael truly intend to kill Rand? As the attack unfolds, Rand and Egwene find themselves overwhelmed by Samael and his men. Just as it seems like Rand is about to take a devastating hit, Aviendha appears at the last moment, saving them from certain death. At the climax of Episode 6, Rand is forced to wield his power to eliminate their attackers. However, using the one power comes at a devastating cost. While it successfully drives back their enemies, it also causes massive destruction. Most tragically, Alcera, who was in the building behind Rand, is killed in the chaos. Overcome with grief and unable to bear the thought of losing her, Rand desperately tries to bring her back to life using his power. It is Moiraine who finally steps in, stopping him from completely losing control in his anguish. The following morning, Fael is out on patrol with Bane and Chiad when they spot unusual movement near the Waygate. To their horror, an army of Trollocs and Dark Friends is flooding through. Watching the looming threat, Chiad grimly remarks, "Soon, Golden Eyes will have to lead his people to war, whether he wants to or not." As the episode begins, the people of Two Rivers are bracing themselves for the impending battle against the Trollocs. The villagers are undergoing intense training under the guidance of Maxim, who is helping them prepare for the war. Despite his efforts, Perrin can't shake the feeling that he's leading these people to certain doom. As he forges weapons for them, a heavy weight of responsibility rests on his shoulders, knowing they stand little chance without help. At the same time, the warning bell suddenly sounds. Everyone instinctively rushes to the fence, spears at the ready, but Perrin quickly recognizes the newcomers as members of the Tuatha. Among them are Aram and Isla, whom Perrin last saw back in Season 1 during his time with their traveling caravan. The Tuatha look worse for wear, and that's because their wagons had run into a group of Trollocs. Their worried expressions tell Perrin all he needs to know: they'll come for us tonight. Tensions are high between Aram and Isla as everyone gathers to share a meal. With everything that's happened since the events in Rui Dian, it's striking that the Tuatha's firm commitment to the Way of the Leaf still causes inner conflict. Aram is clearly struggling with the principles of non-violence, especially now that he finds himself surrounded by the looming reality of war. Meanwhile, Alanna is busy training Bode and Eldrin Cawthon to access their strength through the One Power, though the only thing the girls seem interested in learning is how to hurl fireballs. Realistically, given how little time they have, the most they'll manage is to link with Alanna and enhance her strength, much like what was done in Faldara. On the other hand, Loyal watches as the two IL women with him make suggestive gestures about Aram. But as you can imagine, the IL would never tarnish themselves by sleeping with the Tuthan. But this interaction gives Loyal an idea. See, the IL women are in Two Rivers because they owe Loyal their toe, so Loyal makes a plan to send them back because he doesn't want them to fight a battle that isn't theirs. When Alanna notices the new wisdom from the Two Rivers observing her, she picks up on something unexpected. The woman also has the gift of channeling. Clearly, the old blood of Manetheren runs deep in these mountains, and Alanna isn't shy about proudly pointing that out to her warder Maxine. Meanwhile, Fael tells some villagers that the Trollocs are afraid of wolves, so they can feel safe and protected by Perrin. A little later, they get a visit from Dane Bornhold. Perrin explains the gravity of the situation to Dane, emphasizing that the White Cloaks would ultimately benefit if the Trolloc horde manages to overrun the village first. His logic is that if the Trollocs eliminate the villagers, they will become stronger, whereas a smaller force could be easily repelled by the White Cloaks now. Perrin even offers to surrender himself once the battle is over as a show of faith and desperation to get Dane on board. However, Dane ultimately rejects the offer, expressing his loss of faith in Perrin's promises. With the White Cloaks refusing to help, Perrin becomes even more terrified, believing their defeat is now almost inevitable. On the other hand, Loial asks the two women to play a game of Maiden's Kiss with him. Loial doesn't let the two women kiss him until they've nearly put their blades through his throat. They decide to stop because they don't want to kill the man, pretending that the reason was that they didn't ask for permission to play the game. But now that Loial risked his life to save the both of them, they make a new plan. While there are two women, only one of them owed Loial before, so now the other one owes him too, meaning he knows for sure that they're not going anywhere. Although Alanna and Maxime have consistently been at odds with each other since the death of Alanna's other warder and their lover, Ivan, as Alanna points out, she could turn off their bond until the battle starts, giving Maxim a few more hours of peace without her in his head. But if this is going to be their last night alive, Maxim admits he doesn't want to miss a single minute of her. Of course, he also can't resist torturing her with one of her favorite things, a date, by eating it directly in front of her and asking if she can feel it through their bond, to which Alanna simply shoves him up against a wall and decides to earn a taste herself by kissing him. It's a lovely and surprisingly poignant scene, as Aes Sedai and Warder physically reconnect on an intimate level and figure out how they can fit together as a twosome. Meanwhile, Perrin and Fael's conversation takes a more emotional turn after she finds him at the blacksmith's forge. Initially, he questions why she's sticking around when a fight like this isn't something she needs to put herself on the line for. When Fael tries to brush off Perrin's concern about her by saying she simply believes in lost causes, Perrin grabs her hand and admits he doesn't want to watch her die before urging her to leave while she still can. Fael, to her credit, doesn't believe that she'll suffer the same fate as Lila, a name that still makes Perrin's hackles rise, especially when Fael goes as far as to graphically describe the circumstances of his late wife's death. The former Hunter of the Horn has a point, though. Perrin is so worried about something happening to Fael that he's not respecting her choice to stay and fight. In an attempt to ease the tension and perhaps lighten the mood, the maidens suggest playing a game of Kiss of the Maiden. But when it becomes clear that Loial isn't interested in romance or intimacy, he tries to save face by suggesting they just play the game instead. Afterward, he tells them they've fulfilled their obligation and are free to leave the village. Perrin makes a plan on how to keep the Trollocs away with a few people who can help him in this battle. As far as keeping the Trollocs out is concerned, the overall plan doesn't need to change, especially since they refuse to cross water and only have access to a small mountain path as a result. If forced to retreat, Perrin says, they'll be able to hold the Trollocs at the Two Rivers Gate and then again in the square, and then at the Winespring Inn as a last resort. The Tuatha are tasked with leading the village's children through a secret tunnel into the mountains, in case the battle seems lost. Loial volunteers to permanently close the waygate outside of the Two Rivers, otherwise the Trollocs will be able to call in reinforcements. Perrin doesn't love the idea, but relents when Bane and Shiad agree to accompany the Ogier on his mission. As the people of the Two Rivers assemble with longbows, swords and spears at the mountain pass, Perrin rallies them with a song, the same one that the Emond's Field 5 once sang while leaving their home for the first time. The song, full of memories of their past and hopes for their future, serves as a reminder of their unity and the strength they've found in one another. It's a moment of solidarity as they prepare to face the impending threat, drawing strength from the bonds they've forged and the people they've become. Before the song even finishes, the roars of the Trollocs and the Dark Friends accompanying them break through, and the battle is officially on. Maxim quickly directs the archers, and their arrows create a momentary pause in the enemy's advance. The force of their attack is enough to give the villagers a brief sense of hope, but the Trollocs and Dark Friends soon begin shooting arrows of their own, forcing the archers to react quickly. From a mountaintop, Alanna links with the Cawthon girls and the Two Rivers Wisdom, and instead of unleashing fireballs or lightning like Moiraine did in Season 1, she summons hail, sharp daggers of ice plunging from the sky, cutting down Trollocs and Dark Friends alike. The sight of the storm descending from the sky fills the battlefield with a brief sense of awe as the tide of the battle seems to shift. However, the relief is short-lived. The enemy seems to retreat, but Perrin isn't convinced that they're safe. He and Fael quickly head back to the village while Maxime stays behind, coordinating the defense. In the chaos, Alanna is struck by a spear in the chest. Maxime, devastated by her injury, is left reeling as the battle escalates. The archers, without Alanna's powerful support, struggle to hold back the advancing Trollocs. Meanwhile, Bode and Eldrin attempt to heal Alanna, but their powers aren't enough to save her. Maxime is beside himself, torn between his need to help Alanna and the increasing threat of the Trollocs overrunning the village. The situation grows increasingly desperate, and the people of the Two Rivers must find a way to rally and fight back, even as their leaders struggle to stay in control of the situation. The arrival of the White Cloaks initially seems like a positive turn of events, with Dane seemingly coming through on his promise. However, that hope quickly dissipates when Perrin spots Padden Fane among their ranks. The Dark Friend has infiltrated the Children of the Light, and now he and his cohorts have entered the heart of the Two Rivers main square. With Fane's presence, the situation becomes even more dire, and Perrin and Dane are forced to join forces in a battle neither of them could have predicted. The stakes have never been higher, and the Two Rivers is now under siege from within its own walls. As the battle rages on, everyone, including the Women's Circle, is pushed to the brink. Despite their best efforts, the longer the fight continues, the more lives are lost. Perrin, weary and questioning his ability to protect his home, wonders if all hope is truly lost. It's Fael who cuts through his doubts, offering him the words he desperately needs to hear. "What would you give for the Two Rivers?" "Everything," Perrin responds without hesitation. "Then show them," Fael urges, her words sparking a fire within him. With a newfound resolve, Perrin picks up his blacksmith's hammer and his axe, dual-wielding the weapons as he throws himself into the fray. The weight of his responsibilities no longer holds him back, and he fights with a ferocity he had long denied himself, determined to protect his people no matter the cost. Meanwhile, Loial, Bane, and Chaiad make their way toward the Waygate, their mission clear to ensure it's permanently closed and prevent the Trollocs from bringing in reinforcement. As they advance, they dispatch the Dark Friends guarding the gate without hesitation. But Loial's realization that the Waygate can only be permanently closed from the inside adds a heavy layer of gravity to the moment. He has already bid farewell to Perrin, knowing the consequences of what must be done. With Bane and Chaiad standing guard, Loial prepares for the final act of sacrifice. In the midst of the chaos, Aram's transformation becomes evident. Once a staunch believer in the Way of the Leaf, Aram's exposure to the horrors of war and the threats against his people have changed him. In a desperate act of protection, Aram kills a Trolloc to keep the baby in his arms safe, showing how much he's willing to fight and kill to protect those he loves. His shift away from passivity is a direct reflection of the personal and emotional toll the war has taken on him. The Cawthon sisters also face their own moment of reckoning. After failing to save Alanna earlier, the sisters tap into their strength, powered by the grief and rage over their mother's death. Their emotions, raw and unchecked, fuel their power, and they use it to confront Aemon Valda. The anger that has built up inside them comes to a head, and they unleash their fury on him. The man who caused so much pain and suffering is no match for their strength, and the sisters burn him alive, exacting a brutal and final vengeance for their mother. The death of Valda, while a moment of justice for the Cawthon sisters, also serves as a stark reminder of how war and tragedy can warp the paths of even the most peaceful people. At first, Loial attempts to destroy the Waygate using his hammer, but each strike is met with resistance, the gate proving stronger than he anticipated. With more Trollocs closing in, Loial makes a fateful decision instead of the way gate itself. He targets the bridge. His hammer swings with power, and with each blow, the bridge begins to crumble. The structure gives way beneath him, and Loial's heroic sacrifice is complete. As the bridge collapses, Loial meets his fate with a defiant roar, knowing that he has done what needed to be done to save the two rivers. His bravery becomes a turning point in the battle, a sacrifice that ensures the village's survival and exemplifies the true meaning of selflessness and heroism. At the end of The Wheel of Time, Episode 7, Perrin catches hold of Padan Fain and fears he can't save two rivers. But, being the bigger man, Perrin makes a deal with Padan and sets him free in exchange for the lives of the people of two rivers. Perrin asks Padan what they've done for him to have so much hatred against them. Padan tells them that the Dark One wants two rivers to be destroyed to teach Rand a lesson. However, Padan agrees to the deal when he realizes Perrin will definitely kill him and immediately gets his men to retreat, leaving two rivers safe again in Perrin's hand. In the end, Perrin is the leader two rivers always needed. Alanna tells the Cawthon girls that she's not taking them to the tower and that the pattern has different plans for them instead. Aram gets to stay back as a blacksmith, since he went against the way of his people. Perrin goes through the book Loial left behind for him, calling Perrin the leader of two rivers. Dane reminds Perrin of his promise to surrender to the White Cloaks. Even though the villagers now stand behind him more than ever and are willing to fight on, Perrin honors his word and gives himself up to bring the bloodshed to a close.
The episode opens with a flashback to Siwan and Eleda's battle for the Amerlin seat, which took place 10 years ago. Eleda returns to the White Tower to meet with Alviarin, who pointedly questions her about what the Elfin promised her. According to Eleda, they promised her the Amerlin seat itself. Of course, every gift from the Elfin comes with a price, but Eleda, ever confident, isn't concerned. The power struggle at the heart of this moment is between Siwan and Eleda. In the end, it's Alviarin who tips the scales, casting the decisive vote in Siwan's favor, much to Eleda's frustration and disdain.
Siwan Sanche.
Back in the present, Siwan is losing favor with the sisters. Lean knows she's been told to stand by Rand, but she's frustrated about being kept in the dark over why. She encourages Siwan to put this to a vote before the tower, given it's the most important thing they can do. However, Siwan has already been sending out letters and setting the wheels in motion. This is just what Eleda needs to make her move and trust that Alviarin will make the right choice this time and stand by her. On the other hand, Rand harvests the little Isle girl's farm for her because he owes her to. Elsewhere, Egwene shows to see Rand, but things are tense between them. Of course, after all the Lanfear drama, she's not in a particularly cheerful mood. At the same time, Moiraine confronts Samael next, whom she's keeping captive. She wants him to teach Rand, otherwise he'll be buried in this cave, and she'll make sure nobody remembers who she is. In Tenchiko, one of Liandrin's friends has a powerful terangrial that can emit real fire. They're still looking for Ispan, but she is, of course, dead. They're distracted when Mokedian, still in disguise, gives Liandrin the bracelet. Liandrin then tells the women that they're going to go to the Penarch's palace to find the collar. Nynaeve and Mat decide to follow them. At the palace, Liandrin's told they're uninvited, so she kills the guards without a thought. Finally, in a dream, Rand has a word with Lanfear and confronts her about threatening Egwene in her dreams. He tells her that he's leaving her just like Luz did because she's jealous, petty, and cruel. Rand tells Lanfear that he finally sees the monster in her, but this is all because he's tempting her to show up in the IL waste. Before Lanfear can react, Egwene shows up in the dream and wills her away, just like the Wise Ones taught her. When they wake up, the Wise Ones, Moiraine, and a few others are with them, ready to fight. But when she doesn't show up, Moiraine tells Rand that maybe he's not the only one Lanfear is looking for. She's right, because Lanfear first goes to Melindra, who owes her, and tells her it's time to pay back. Meanwhile, Mat, Min, Elaine, and Tom meet Nynaeve at the palace to find the collar. It seems Tom knew Elaine when she was a child, and has kept an eye on her mother ever since he left, because they were good friends. Elaine brings up Lord Gabriel, but Tom has no idea who that is. Tom realizes the gravity of this situation, and I have a feeling he's going to help get rid of Gabriel in the future. But I don't think Elaine realizes her mom has a Forsaken in her bed just yet. On the other hand, Malkidian kills Samael because she's taking down the Chosen one by one. On the other hand, all the IL clans gather together to see what Rand is made of, and if he's really telling the truth about being the Kara Karn. But Lanfear finds the man who was always against Rand being the Kara Karn on account of him being an outsider, and gives him the second dragon on his arm to make it look like he's the Kara Karn too. If Rand has an army, it will be harder to get rid of him or control him. Remember the red twisty door? Well, there's one in Panarch's palace too, and Mat accidentally walks into it before men can stop him. Inside, Mat meets the Ilfin, fox-like human creatures. The Ilfin are meant to grant wishes, but when they give some, they take some too. The Ilfin can sense that Mat has the memories of the ancestors and that it's bothering him, so it offers to take them away. Before Mat can realize it, a deal's been made, and the next thing we know, Min's vision is coming true with Mat being hanged in front of the door. At this time, one of Liandrin's allies is looking at Mat, so Mine attacks her from the back and then cuts the rope that Mat's hanging by. Finally, she hits him so hard in the chest that he's brought back to life. While the voices in his head are gone, he starts to realize that his own memories are fading too. Yikes! At the palace, Nynaeve sees Liandrin leave behind a ring-like thing that looks like a collar, but not the one from the image. She picks it up because she realizes it's the collar they're looking for. But she waits for the others outside the palace, and Liandrin finds her. Nynaeve tries to reach out to the old Liandrin to remind her of the light, but it has the opposite effect on her. Liandrin tells Nynaeve that she's going to be the first chosen from a new generation, and the most powerful of them all. She takes the collar with her powers from Nynaeve, and then drops her in the sea in front of the palace. Just as Nynaeve is about to give up, she sees her daughter from when she gave the test as an accepted. Nynaeve basically tells herself that she's there for her, and this makes her connected to the one power again. Finally, Nynaeve is able to channel, escape the bonds Liandrin put her in, part the waters like Moses, and step out of it. After clearing the water and emerging stronger, Nynaeve finds a renewed sense of purpose. On the other hand, Elaine gets her hand on the fire terangrial and kills the woman who was using it to save Tom's life. Back at the tower, Siwan sends Perrin and the strongest Aes Sedai to find the Red Aja because they've apparently got plans to defy her. Before this, Elada had banished certain Red Aja members from the White Tower. Upon discovering this, Siwan dispatches her most trusted Aes Sedai to retrieve them. However, it turns out to be a trap, and now Siwan has no allies left in the White Tower. Fascinatingly, Elaida ensured that 11 Aes Sedai remained in the tower, and they all rallied around her. She is proclaimed the Amyrlin seat after calling a vote during Siwan's absence. On the other hand, Liandrin tells Mokidian that she will prove herself to her because 2 women are needed to use the collar. At the same time, Lanfear finds a dead Samael with parts of his body turned into web-like structures coming out of him. Lanfear tells Raven that she'll come for them next if they don't team up, and she brings up the Colindor. Lanfear tells Raven that she's ready to kill the dragon reborn. Elaida continues her rise, and when someone finds out what happened, she is accused of being a dark friend. Her access to the One Power is stripped in front of the remaining Aes Sedai. She is then interrogated while severely wounded. Siwan claims she is collaborating with Moiraine, who had already been expelled from the tower, and Rand, whom Elaida once pacified. Siwan is made to tell the truth about the dragon reborn, and she tells the sitters that Moiraine and she were told by the previous seat that the dragon will be reborn. Siwan says that she loves Moiraine and that she's never broken her oaths because she will always be on the side of the light. She tries to show them the side of the light because all Elaida wants is power, which they're unable to see. Finally, Siwan is beheaded in the hall, and Moiraine can feel it all the way in the IL waist because of their bond. At the IL waist, Melindra goes to Lan and tells him that she will die for Malkier and the Golden Crane because Lan himself is the Golden Crane. She's meant to kill him, but because she defied her dark oath, which she made to save Malkier, she ends up dying in Lan's arms. At the same time, Moiraine apologizes to Rand for not backing his decision to go to the IL. She now believes it was the right decision. He then asks her if it was she who attacked him and Egwene with the mirrors to drive a wedge between them. Moiraine says it was, and that she wanted to push him away from both Lanfear and Egwene. Moiraine tells Rand that she's always been the knife at his throat because she was ready to kill him if he ever turned to the dark. She tells him that she only wants him at the last battle if he's going to win it for the light. Rand says that she's the only person who wants the same thing he wants. Rand tells Moiraine that he wants her to be by his side for as long as they're both still around. But Moiraine tells him that he has to get the IL to join forces with him by himself. No Aes Sedai involved. Moiraine says she's going to protect him from Lanfear in the meanwhile, or die trying. Moiraine and Lanfear fight in the desert, where Moiraine uses the Sakarnan. Lanfear is still too powerful for her, but I wonder if Lanfear is using the Colindor here.
And then finally, we witness what may be the most electrifying and unexpected moment. Lan Mandragoran, Moraine's warder and one of the greatest swordsmen in the world, launching a direct attack on Lanfear. The visual contrast here is stunning. Lan, armed with steel and raw skill, charges toward one of the most powerful Forsaken, who casually shields herself with the One Power.
Lanfear buries the sword in Moiraine's chest, and it looks like the latter is basically dead before she feels Siwan's death, and the power of her love helps her pull out the sword and attack Lanfear again. Moiraine gets Lanfear in the neck before she escapes. At the end of the Wheel of Time, Episode 8, Rand and the other IL man make their case in front of all the IL clan. It only takes Rand to talk about what he saw in Rui D and at the IL to look at him differently. One of the chiefs tells Rand that he will destroy them if he tells them what he saw in Ruidian, but Rand reminds him that that's what the Kara Karn is meant to do. Rand then channels the power, which turns black because he has both the light and the dark within him. But it begins to rain, and the chief declares Rand their Kara Karn, bowing to him. The only person standing is Egwene, and when she tries to tell Rand to stop, he stares blankly, almost as if he doesn't know what he's doing. I wonder if Aviendha may be able to stop him, or if he will end up hollow before Moiraine shows up to save him again. When Rand unleashes his full power in front of the Aiel, Egwene is the only one who sees the danger. While everyone else kneels, she watches with concern. He may be the dragon reborn, but any man who channels the one power risks madness. And in Rand's case, that madness could spell disaster for the entire world. As he continues to demonstrate his overwhelming power, Egwene steps forward and tells him to let go. Rand looks at her, but before we see his response, the screen fades to black